everyone. Welcome to the She's a 10 times 5 show. I'm Lori, and my friends Lisa, Michelle, Randy, and Marcia are mixing it up and joining me to do what girlfriends do best, chat from the heart. Whether it's celebrity stories or serious topics, we're talking about it and coming in hot. Join us as we bring you the aha moments of learning, reflection, inspiration, and of course, a whole heck of a lot of fun. Let's go. This episode is brought to you by...
Hi, my name is Kelly Whistler. I'm the founder of Have a Seat Yoga. I developed my program 6 years ago to target an audience that might have limited mobility issues and to be able to provide all the benefits that a traditional yoga program would provide on a mat. I developed my program to be accessible to anybody. If you go to my website, Have a Seat Yoga, you'll see a complete list of all of the classes that are provided there. There's a schedule, and it's easy to just sign up. There'll be a link sent to you. It's an interactive live class.
Hey everyone, welcome to She's a 10 times 5. I'm Lori, and I've got my pal Michelle with me.
Hello.
Michelle. Hello, singing Michelle. We got a little bit of the giggles going on before we hit record. And not that this is a dichotomy, but it kind of is, because we have someone that goes by the moniker of Sober Sis. Her name is Jenn Kautsch. We're bringing her on, but I have a feeling she's not going to sober us up. Do you?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's wait and see.
Well, let's wait and see. Okay, so gang, this gal woke up on Christmas Day a few years ago and basically decided to cut alcohol completely out of her life. She is part of the Sober Curious movement, which among women has gained a lot of steam. She does all kinds of talks about the Sober Curious movement and how to stay sober and eliminate alcohol from our lives completely. And she has a book coming out. So what's the question you're going to ask her? What's the big rock you're going to try to move on this one? This one fascinates me.
It does fascinate me too. I'm not a big drinker, but I do know a lot of people that, drink daily. So I guess I want to learn more. I want to be educated myself, and I'm sure she's the person to do it. Let's hear what she has to say.
Yeah. Health, lifestyle, pressures, we integrate alcohol significantly throughout our social stuff. So we're going to tackle all those things. But first, we're going to bring on our little sledgehammer, Randy, for...
Hard yes or hard no.
All right, Randy, let's go.
Hi guys, my name is Randy Crawford and I'm a life coach. My philosophy is simple. When we know better, we do better, no judgment. But with me, it's always a hard yes or a hard no. Ooh, I'm so excited about this interview today. It's with Jenn Kautsch, and she is known as Sober Sis. Here's why I love this so much. Because during COVID, I definitely started drinking wine earlier and earlier every single day. Let me back up. I'm Italian. I have drank wine my whole life. On my 21st birthday, my father gave me 21 bottles of wine, and so on and so forth. And we've always had it around, and I've never given it much thought. I got a little out of control during COVID. I didn't overdrink, but I started drinking much earlier because it was a habit. I literally was living on autopilot. I started to become curious about how to cut back, but nothing ever motivated me because I just feel like wine is part of who I am. Next thing I know, I enter my 50s, and the hormones and the sugar didn't really work that well. And so that gave me actual hot flashes at night, which absolutely caused me to stop wine in my tracks, stop drinking all the sugar. So now when I look at wine, I know if I am making a choice to drink it, that I will wake up in the middle of the night, sweating profusely, and it will piss me off. So it's funny, it took that to get me to slow down. But at the end of the day, it is really life-changing when you realize you sleep better, you wake up better, you make better decisions and choices the next day because you haven't drank the night before. And I'm not talking about getting so drunk or anything. I'm talking about 1 to 2 glasses of wine, but 1 to 2 glasses every single night causes you to make bad choices. I eat more, I need more crappy foods, and it's a cycle. And what she is doing is just absolutely brilliant. I am so excited for you to hear this interview, and I'm coming in with a hard yes to Jenn Kautsch and the Sober Sis.
Well, okay, everyone, now it's time for our show. Oh, welcome, Jenn.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be really fun.
It's going to be magnificent. And I was telling you before we hit record how I have been so looking forward to this, because not only has the Sober Curious movement kind of galvanized and drawn a lot of us in, but I actually have two besties that have done your program and are huge fans. So they are so excited that I get to spend time with you today.
So awesome. I love hearing that. It's amazing how in just a few short years, word has spread, and it is spreading. It's spreading like wildfire, this whole Sober Curious movement and what's going on out there. It's exciting to be a part of it.
Yes. Okay. Let's start from the beginning, because you woke up on Christmas Day. Was it 2017?
Correct.
And you made this decision. It was, you turned the valve and said, go. Can you walk us through that and where that decision came from and what the epiphany was, so to speak?
Absolutely. So just to frame it a little bit in context, a little bit about my own story. I've kind of come from this gray area drinking zone, which was a term I had never heard before. I always thought that if you were just questioning your relationship with alcohol, you had to pick black or white, all or nothing. And I think that leaves out a lot of women, a lot of people, but a lot of women especially, who find themselves in that middle ground, that middle zone, that gray area drinking zone. And I kind of found myself there very subtly over time. I started drinking really socially, kind of habitually, like it's Friday night, it's Monday night, it's book club, come on. Really in my young 30s, and carried that on through my young 40s. And it was really catching up to me because it was not aligning with who I wanted to be. But I kept asking the question, is it bad enough? And every time I asked myself, well, is it bad enough? Is my drinking a problem, like bad enough? I just looked around, compared myself to other people, looked at my friends who were drinking much the same, and thought, no, it's not bad enough to change. And that was really asking the wrong question. The right question is it good enough? Is just the way I'm living my life day and night, is it aligned? Is it combined? Is it good enough? And the answer was no for me. So
She's a 10 Apparel, where we're giving all net proceeds directly to YWCA in San Diego to empower and give women second chances. Go to our Instagram at She's a 10 times 5 and help us make an impact. Let's go.
By the time 2017 rolled around, I had been exploring an alcohol-free lifestyle since that spring, since April of 2017. That's when I really started catching wind, if you will, of the message I'm out there trying to spread, which is you can change your relationship with drinking at any time and for any reason. I thought you could only change it if it was bad enough and because you kind of had to. And I think the message is changing now to, no, you can look at your relationship with alcohol anytime and for any reason. And it's never too early to change it either. And so that's really where I was when I began my journey. It was not working for me internally. It was more of an internal battle. So from April 2017, really to that fateful Christmas Day of 2017, when I had the idea for Sober Sis, that's really when that was born, because I wanted to share with more women what I just, an ordinary mom down the street, had discovered and it had worked for me. And I knew that my journey wasn't really that unique. I had always thought that it was, but come to find out, there's a lot of people out there that deal with this gray area drinking.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because a lot of times people associate that with hitting rock bottom, right?
Right.
But there's so many people out there that are just day drinking and evening. And then it's, like I said, there's different events that go on in your life that bring you to alcohol's involved.
Exactly. And, it could be for some people, it's life stage. I know for me, when I started my 40s, I was also starting to raise teenagers. And so, I got to say, the anxiety around raising teenagers, even just some mom rejection I went through, that was kind of new to me. I all of a sudden had a 13-year-old that had a little bit of a 13-year-old attitude. And we switched over from the little girl that thinks mom is awesome all the time to get out of my face, which is normal teenage stuff, but it didn't feel normal to my heart. It felt like, oh, crushing blow. So for me, a lot of the anxiety and a lot of navigating the fear and trying to let go, but also stay involved, I started really leaning on that wine o'clock time to kind of chill out, unwind, not be such an uptight mom that's always in the mix. I just kind of started kind of pulling back into the shadows of my own life, just to almost get out of the way and squelch some of the potential conflict, chaos. And so that's kind of what moved me from just a social drinker that could take it or leave it to, I could take it or leave it, but I think I'm going to take it because it's become my companion when I'm anxious, bored, tired, lonely, all the things. I think for some women, it's grief. They've gone through a loss or a tragedy of some kind that can kind of catapult someone from just being a social drinker that, isn't really thinking about it as an evening routine to something that does turn into nightly drinking or more. And then, of course, the pandemic. It was like the global leveler of all things hard and all things isolating, which are key markers that drive any kind of numbing behavior is isolation. And that's why connection really is the antidote to I say addiction. When I say addiction, I mean anything that has power over you that causes you to want to escape, numb, or hide. And isolation anxiety, isolation just pours, gas on the fire that's already there.
Yeah. I know we're talking about our age group and that's our primary audience, but I have two college age kids. And one of the things that really resonates with me, and you've talked about, is we are a society where our social kind of interactions oftentimes, and not just here in our country, but I think globally, revolve liquor. So let's meet for drinks or happy hour, or it's become such an embedded part of our language and routines as we do connect. And now having college age kids, my God, I Thursday night, if you have a son or daughter that's in a fraternity or sorority, Thursday night it's on, Saturday night it's on, and it's big. And it's kind of an alarming thing to see as you watch your kids and they go down that path and they're doing shots and they're at a bar. Kind of, have you drawn in all of that into kind of some of your programs and people that participate?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked me about that because really when I was struggling the most with drinking was in those raising teenage years, but it really changing my relationship with drinking really allowed me to transition from those high school years to now having kids that are also, my children are also in their young 20s. I have a 23-year-old and a 25-year-old, and I'm turning 52 in June. So I changed my relationship with drinking right before I turned 47. And it was a key time to do that in my life. I do think that it's opened the door for so much more discussion too with my adult children who are on their complete own path and own journey with alcohol. But this whole kind of empty questing phase, that we're in, and just the transition, it's such a big one. And really that was a big catalyst for me when looking at my own life. Did it align? My daughter was actually 18 and had just graduated high school and was making a big move across the country. She was leaving Texas to go to California, my 19-year-old. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I can handle that if I'm drinking. I think drinking is actually going to make that harder for me because I started associating. I was just starting to learn the science behind alcohol. I started associating how much anxiety and alcohol play a part with each other. I always thought my drinking was to subdue my anxiety. And what I learned through understanding the science of alcohol and just how it interacts with your normal body chemistry is it actually increases anxiety and cortisol days later. So if I wanted to be kind of able to make this transition of stepping into letting the kids become the adults that they needed to be, I was going to have to get more coping skills on my own to be able to do that. And it was a big catalyst for me too, to think, well, here's my daughter, my oldest, she's getting to make a major life change. Why can't I? I mean, I'm going to show up at 50 here soon. And I really wanted to show up at 50 different than I did 40. That's a big part of my story, because when I showed up at 40, you know, the big 40, you feel like you're supposed to kind of have it together and be at your prime, and, you know, all your workout is dialed in, and you're still sporting the bikini body because you're only 40. And I showed up at 40 overwhelmed, over it. And I was just beginning. I was just starting the new decade. And so I really wanted to show up at 50 without focus so much on the external of what that would look like at 50, but more how it would feel on the inside. And I knew for me, one of the lead dominoes, it turned out to be the lead domino, would be getting my power back by letting go of my relationship with drinking as a power source. I was actually outsourcing a lot of my resilience and ability to do hard things to, if I could have a glass of wine, I could do it better. And I took that crutch away and said, I don't need a glass of wine to do hard things. I don't need a glass of wine to stop feeling the feels. I want to be all there. And I'm going to need to work on that. I could not do that overnight to show up at 50 different than I did 40. So I took a solid, 3.5 years before I turned 50 to work on the very things that I wanted to show up differently and have inside. And here I am, far from perfect. Oh, far, far, far from perfect, which was never the goal. The goal was never perfection. The goal was never to, quote, have it all together. The goal was to be authentic, genuine, and wholehearted in my own life, was to be the same person by day and by night, to not have 12 hours of detox living and then 12 hours of a retox and trying to recover. I was tired of that detox loop, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It was dividing me in two. And I was literally walking around almost as if I were two different people.
Yeah. And that's living authentically, which I'm sure feels great. To get there, you had to put the work in. So I'm curious what that looked like. Was it meditation, therapy, meetings? What was that process for you over those 3 years?
Yeah, it was a lot of intentionality. I'll tell you that. You're right. It was very intentional. And really what I started doing immediately was working on my mindset. I knew that I had such an outlook on alcohol that it was so valuable to me. Quite honestly, it was very valued. It was like, okay, I'll get through the day. I'll do all the right things. I'll check all the boxes. And then 5 o'clock, it's my reward. It's my treat. It's like the carrot dangling at the end of the day. And so if you're up against that out there, I understand. I had to change my mindset that alcohol really wasn't this valuable elixir that was going to kind of erase my problems, that it was actually something that was going to be taking from me, not giving to me. And so a lot of that mindset work happened for me by, again, learning the science behind alcohol. And it's something that's rarely talked about. All we see are the memes, the wine memes, the rosé all day. People are not talking about their hangovers the next morning. They're just showing their Instagram pictures of drinking that night.
That's
and
right.
So I really started kind of popping the hood and going, now, wait a minute, what's really going on? I thought, did you know, I didn't know this, that 20% of habitual drinkers drink to fall asleep? That women are drinking wine in the evenings, oftentimes as a bit of a sleep aid. If you've got a snoring husband or teenagers that are coming in and out, and you just have an over, thinking brain, you might think to yourself, I'll have a nightcap. That's where we get that. And just kind of numb it out at night. Maybe I won't hear the noises. Maybe I won't worry so much. Maybe I'll blow things off. And we don't equate it to the 3 a.m. wake up call. The wake up call at 3 a.m. when all the chemicals are shooting through your body and you're wide awake with a feeling of dread and anxiety. And we just think, oh, we're getting older. That's just hormones. That's just the way it's supposed to be. I guess I better just, get over it. And I didn't realize that. So really going back to mindset and science helped a lot. And just having some real practical tools. I have a free guide out there that I offer women, strategies for wine o'clock, literally tonight. Like, how do you do this tonight? Let's forget trying to change your relationship with alcohol forever. Let's just talk about this weekend. And a lot of that is knowing how to handle those cravings, which are very real. Just like with a lot of things that have that addictive property, whether that's sugar or caffeine, alcohol's, definitely in that category where if you don't really know what you're up against and you're just using a lot of willpower, it's going to fatigue. And then you end up feeling more defeated, which, when we feel negative feelings and we're drinking, what do we want to do? We want to drink more to numb those, and we just drink more. So it's a vicious cycle. So I think that really empowered me to make these choices, knowing more realistically what I was kind of up against, even physically speaking, in those first, few weeks. And then for me, yes, definitely prayer, meditation. I come from a Christian faith, and so that's a big part for me of just really where I have found my freedom. And so interesting note there, if I'm talking to a Christian mom out there or someone who's like, well, Jenn, I hear you. I've been praying about it. I've been praying God would take this away. And I did that too. I prayed a lot on my back patio while I was drinking a red cab, drinking and praying at the same time. And really what I discovered for me was that God actually wanted to partner with me, that it wasn't this big, take it away. It's something good. I'm going to take it away. Instead, I may have better. I have better for you. And so my prayer life has definitely changed in a more surrendered, dependent way than it is let me get it together. Let me get my act together and clean this up and be a certain way on a Sunday morning. Because I was going to church hungover, and that's no fun to be hungover in a church pew. I've been there, and a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and a lot of confusion. And again, I think that's why going back to understanding the substance itself takes a lot of that moral failure feeling away, because you realize, no, my brain was actually working quite honestly like God designed it with an addictive substance. I mean, if you're drinking one glass and that seems to be working for a while, and then you want 2 glasses, that's your brain working. I mean, the dopamine hit and the dopamine release from drinking is unbelievable in the short term. So of course, and I always thought, oh, just try harder. And you can't just try harder. You have to know better so you can do better. And so that helped a lot. And then last, but certainly not least, probably most importantly, is the power of connection. I thought for sure I had to be this anomaly, this one that just kind of floated in this weird gray area. Nope. Turns out there are a lot of us out there, like you mentioned at the beginning. And I think just having that kind of identification that I'm not broken, I'm not flawed, I'm not alone. This is actually a very relevant current struggle that many women are having. And a lot of that is due to our society that we live in being so alcohol centric. Lori, like you mentioned, I mean, just so over the top, in your face, normalizing, glamorizing this constant flow of just alcohol like it's water.
I did have an interesting conversation with a couple friends, and it was along the lines of, I think, honestly, Jenn, let's say 98% of every bad decision or mistake or, the take backs. Oh God, I wish I could go back and take that, have happened when I've been under the influence of alcohol, bar none.
100%. Absolutely. If I look back at every wrong move, every unfiltered fight with my husband that I wished I didn't have, and I couldn't put my words back in my mouth because they just had no safeguard to keep them in. Alcohol was involved with one or both of us. That's really juicy when you get the couple both drinking at the same time, which is a huge part of my story as well, because for me and my husband, it had actually turned into a bit of an activity. I mean, how many of y'all out there know what I'm talking about, where it's like, that's what we partly do together. as if it is a connection tool, when really, in reality, it's connecting maybe for the first 30 minutes. Everyone's adulting for just a moment in time. You feel the glam, you feel the, like, we're in this together, let's unwind together. But then somewhere in there, I'd say after that first, initial buzz wears off, now it's actually very disconnecting. Drinking is a solo sport. It really turns you inward, not so really outward. That's my experience and what I've seen. You start thinking about your emotions, your next drink, how you feel, what's wrong in the world. Everything that's inside starts to really come out, and it becomes less about the other person, less about connecting. And really had to navigate that at the beginning, because my husband, great guy, we've been married 28 years this summer. He's still a drinker. So, I mean, I'm AKA Sober Sis, married to not sober bro.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay. I really had to figure out how we connect, and that alcohol was never really that connector that I'd hoped it was. If I look back at ways that it disconnected us, alcohol was always there.
So talk about the health benefits. And then I want to ask you also, when you talk about the health benefits, there's also this other path that's happening right now. Maybe not in Texas, but definitely in California and some other kind of more liberal states, where I'm not going to drink, but I'm going to pop a gummy.
Right.
Or smoke a joint, because that's better than alcohol and it's different. So if you could talk about some of the health benefits that you've discovered, and then kind of loop that in with what's the people that are doing trade-offs.
Absolutely. Great topics right there. Well, first off, I love really going back to this whole concept of being sober-minded. So it takes the focus off of abstinence of one substance, or just saying, I am abstaining from alcohol, or I am sober. I don't really, I know it's kind of a funny word out there right now, I don't really identify as a sober person. I'm a person who's choosing to live an alcohol-free lifestyle, and I really embrace having a sober mind. So I think even with language like that, it almost answers a lot of your questions right there. I'm, sober for the health bit, because the ramifications of drinking from just a health perspective, Andrew Huberman with Huberman Lab podcast recently did a major podcast on the effects of alcohol. It kind of went viral because it is such a relevant topic. I don't know if y'all have heard it, but go check it out.
I did.
Yeah, it was a good one. And he's not pro or anti-alcohol either. That's why I love the neutrality of the message itself. It is about the health benefits. And really, they've come out now and said there really are no healthy levels of alcohol that bring benefit to your body. None. Zero. Zip. They used to kind of bring in the resveratrol for heart health. No, even the American Heart Association has come out and said, no, really, there's no amount that's pro-healthy. I mean, there's just not, because it is a toxin. In fact, it's a known carcinogen. Alcohol is linked to over 15 different kinds of cancers. And so it's actually, I know it's kind of a Debbie Downer out there, but it's actually, a carcinogen, a toxic, poisonous beverage. And we don't really think about that going in, because it's been flavored, labeled as fun, harmless. So immediately when you start drinking alcohol, your body's number one goal is to rid your body of it. That's its job. That's its goal. You drink alcohol, its job is to get it out. So what happens? It stops metabolizing at the same rate with your food and other activities in your body. Everything goes on hold to get the toxin out, to get the poisonous substance out. So your metabolism is actually affected, because the number one goal is not fat burning. It's not, metabolizing your food. It's actually getting rid of the alcohol. So you're actually slowing down a lot of the things that you've worked really hard to do all day with your juicing and your hot yoga, all the things I did too. It's actually putting a reverse on that and going, you know what, all of that fat burning, all of that good metabolism, all of the things we're going to need for good sleep, all of that starts to get compromised in an effort to get this toxin out. And that could be one glass or one bottle. It's still something your body has to negate and work around. So other things are left behind, other functions. And so that really made it really easier for me when I started changing the way I looked at alcohol. And again, I've come pretty far to call it a toxic poison. Because at one point I was like, you know what? Really? Come on. It's a little extreme. But I almost really truly look at it that way now. When I'm passing down the wine aisle in the grocery store, I just see a row of headaches.
Well, you said you learned the science, and that's really the key to it, right? Because
huge.
you started in one place, and where you've ended up now through your education is
Yes.
something completely different.
So huge, because at one point I was like, you know what? I don't believe you. And even if it's true, it can't be true, because they wouldn't be selling it and marketing it like they are, but they are. And so there's a bit of a they out there that I think they want us consumers, especially women in this age bracket. We are a prime target audience. We're at the point where we've got the time, we've got the disposable income for the most part. And we're looking to kind of have this patio, easy breezy, I don't have the little kids anymore lifestyle. And that's a real market. It's a real market to zone out and fall asleep in your own life.
And you have taken on, I mean, you've built this community, which is really amazing, and found people that are interested in learning more. And then you now have a book coming out, which is exciting. Can you talk a little bit about the book?
I can. And my book really meets people more in the sober curious realm, or maybe at the beginning of the alcohol-free journey. I mean, I think any of my sisters out there who are already alcohol-free, embracing the lifestyle, would enjoy reading the stories. But I don't come in, with all guns a-blazing to shoot it all down. I understand what it feels like to be at the beginning and even be questioning, hey, should I just be drinking less or not at all, and be at that point? So my new book is called Look Alive, Sis. It's 40 days. It's a 40-day reader with different stories, with practical tools all throughout to help awaken someone's sober, present mind. And I think, to go back to the question about all these alternative ways to kind of numb out, check out, my litmus test, kind of my own personal filter of what I put in my body and what I don't, because I'm all for, relaxing and adaptogens and CBD. I'm all for that, because it also doesn't affect my sober mind. It doesn't affect my presence, my ability to be all there. And I think anything that takes away our presence is what causes us to kind of misalign from being our true self. So my book, Look Alive, Sis, is all about look alive in your one life by being awake, alert, aware, present. And I'm really excited to put it out there, because I think it's got enough storytelling in it, which I think we all learn from other people's stories, and just scenarios where you can actually see yourself in the situation, at a book club, at a girls' night out, while you're in your kitchen cooking. What does this look like? And how can you have a sober mind while you're living a regular life in a very chaotic, uncertain, alcohol-fueled world, where the ability to check out instantly. I mean, alcohol is a pretty fast method to alter the current reality that you're in. And that's how I looked at it. I wouldn't have maybe realized it at the time, but I really saw it as a bit of an eject button, and a way to bend the reality that I was in to make it look a little different. But it all came back after the drink wore off with a little extra reality in there.
Okay, so you got your book and it's out today, correct? April 3rd
is when it's pre-orderable. The pre-orders start April 3rd. That's right. So if you go to lookalivesis.com, you can get a pre-order of the book, and I've got all kinds of goodies and fun things for those of you who pre-order. I've got screensavers, I've got a digital journal, I got all kinds of stuff. And then the book actually goes live out into the world April 25th. which will be
Nice.
right after I have a live event where everyone who attends that event is going to get a book. So April is a big month. This is exciting.
April's huge. And so talk about your 21-day program as well as if you will, and then a little bit more about the event. And it's in Texas. Is it in Fort Worth?
It's actually in Dallas.
In Dallas. Okay.
I am a Fort Worthian. Fort Worth is better than Dallas, but Dallas is close. Yep. Dallas is closer to the airport. So I chose Dallas for my sisters flying in from all over the world, which is super exciting. But yes, the 21-day reset challenge really is the heart and soul of what I've been doing these last 5 years, because I want to take as many women as I can through this 21 days to really do exactly what I did in the first 21 days of my journey, which was just begin by changing the way I looked at alcohol. That's my goal, is to get women to a point where they're off of autopilot. They feel more empowered to make choices, whether that's to drink less or not at all. So that's the differentiator, I think, between maybe my approach and other groups out there, is you don't have to start with, I'm never drinking again. You can start with, I think I want to take a break, try this on a bit, learn some of that science, get some of that connection, take a break long enough to get that clear mind. Then you will see how or if alcohol fits in your life. And you may want to extend the amount of time you practice living without it. And that's exactly what I did. I practiced living without it first for a few weeks. Then my next goal was 100 days. I was like, I don't know, can I go 100 days? That seemed like so long. But at that point, I was already about 6 weeks in the journey. I was about halfway there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say forever. I'm just going to go for 100 days. And so that's what that 21-day reset is for. It is literally to be able to hit that reset button. And so it's a very easy entry onto really that sober, curious highway.
Okay. And then are you calling it a summit in Dallas or what?
It could be a lot of things. I'm calling it a retreat. Because that sounds fun. I think
it does sound fun.
It does. Yeah. I think retreat sounds fun. It's definitely going to be an oasis. I'm doing it at the Omni, and it's a good one. It's right on a little lake. So there's like gondola rides, the swan boats, fire pits for s'mores. I mean, I really want this retreat vibe. But what the cool thing is about this event is alcohol is not invited.
Well, I mean, I will tell you this, Michelob is not sponsoring you.
It's not, yeah, exactly. We're going to actually have got a DJ Friday night. We're going to have a mingle mocktail party. I've got karaoke lined up. I mean, we're going to have a blast, and we don't need alcohol in our hand to do it. And we're going to all do it together. So it's not going to be like this one-off person who's trying to do all these things alcohol-free or sober-minded in a world where everyone's doing something different. No, we're all going to be doing it together. And so, I think it's going to be really positive and empowering and ultra connecting, which is the key.
Yep, nice. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So where can people find you?
Yes. I would say right now, I would say most people are on social media. If you're on Instagram, you can go find me at Sober Sis, one word, just Sober Sis. All the links are there in my bio for all the different things that I've got going. But I really do have kind of different landing sites for the different things that I offer, because I don't want to confuse people with too many options. So if you're thinking about joining me for this April 21-day reset challenge, it actually closes. I believe this is airing April 3rd. So it will actually close tonight. So I hope you hear this soon. Make the choice to jump in. That's why we've scheduled it to be that way, because we really want to have you on board for April. So if you just go to sobersis.com/21-day challenge, we'll get you hooked right in, and then from there you'll really be a part of our sober-minded sisterhood, which is really cool because the support is ongoing. It's not just about 21 days or an event or reading a book. These are all things we're doing within our tribe of women, but we are a strong, super amazing group of women. Again, all different ages, all over the world. I would say our age group is probably the primary because it's right about now that we realize we can't keep doing what we've always done and get the same results that we don't want. We're going to have to do something different. And it's an exciting time.
I'm signing up.
Come
That's
on.
amazing,
I
Jen.
mean that. And I'm
Kudos.
signing up, and I am going to get some of my girl squad with me because and I've already talked about it with some of them. A lot of people now in our age group are doing, I'm not going to drink during the week, but then we might drink too hard on the weekends. And so I think it is a perfect time. And so I am jumping in, and I'm going to encourage everyone I know to jump on with me. Yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'm so excited about that. I really am. I want you just to know that, our whole approach is progress over perfection. You're not walking a tightrope here of trying to check 21 boxes so you can get an A+ and tell yourself you don't have that bad of a drinking issue. That's what I typically tend to do, right? It's just like, what do I need to do to kind of jump through that hoop and say I did it? The goal is to learn more than it is just to quit drinking. You want to learn along the way. So if you have a slip up, we call it a valuable feedback moment, not a setback. So the goal isn't just like more perfection, more over performing. So I really just invite you just to come in and go, you know what, I'm going to take it one day at a time and learn all I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you to our pal, Donna Corin, for linking us together. That's amazing. That's why I love this podcast. And congratulations on the book launch. I think it's going to do great. Yeah, it's going to do great.
Thank you. It is huge, ladies. And I really do appreciate your support.
You bet. All right. Check her out. Sober Sis. She's also beautiful. So,
Inside and out.
Inside and out. Yeah. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
This week's kindness takeaway is to offer to help someone, whether it be a family member or a complete stranger. Lend someone a helping hand.
Follow us on Instagram at She's a 10 times 5. You can click on the link in our bio to listen to all of our previous episodes, as well as check out our live video interviews over our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, pretty much wherever else you decide to listen to your favorite podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe.